All right, so get this.
Okay.
Imagine like you could peek inside the brain of a powerful AI as it learns.
Mm-hmm.
What would you see?
Yeah.
Well, today, we're diving into research that's doing just that. We've
Wow.
got all these papers and notes
Yeah.
all about how a GPT model, specifically trained on Othello,
Mm-hmm.
builds its understanding of the world.
That's fascinating, really fascinating, because we're trying to unlock this mystery
Right.
of how these incredibly complex AI models
Yeah.
actually learn. Do they learn like us? Do they have these unique ways of processing information?
Right.
That's what this research is trying to unravel.
Okay, so for anyone who doesn't know, Othello's that strategy board game where you're
Yeah.
trying to outmaneuver your opponent
Right.
by flipping those black and white tiles to your color.
Right.
It's all about thinking ahead and controlling the board.
Totally.
And, I've always thought it was pretty complex.
It is. And it's perfect for this kind of study because it requires something we call compositional reasoning, meaning you have to see how individual moves fit into a larger strategy. So it's not just about recognizing patterns, it's about understanding how different parts of the board relate to each other.
So how did the researchers actually figure out what was going on inside the AI's mind
Right.
as it learned to play Othello? Did they hook it up to an MRI or something?
Not quite. They use these two techniques, sparse autoencoders, we call them SAEs for short,
Uh-huh.
and linear probes.
Right.
Think of SAEs as highly specialized decoder rings.
Sure.
They take all the complex activity happening inside the AI and break it down into smaller, more manageable
Right.
bits of information that we can actually understand.
So we've got our AI, Othello GPT, and our decoder rings.
Yes.
What were they looking for?
So they wanted to see if the AI was simply memorizing patterns or if it was actually developing a deeper understanding of the game's strategy. What they discovered is that different layers of the GPT model focused on different things.
Oh.
It's like a hierarchy of understanding,
Okay.
building from simple to complex.
Okay, stop right there. That sounds like a huge GE discovery.
It is.
Could you unpack that a bit more for us?
Absolutely. It's a bit like how we learn language.
Right.
First, we learn letters, then we put those letters together to form words, and then we use those words to build sentences. It's a
Yeah.
step-by-step process.
Right.
Well, it turns out that Othello GPT shows a similar kind of layered learning.
So what were those different layers focused on?
So the early layers of the GPT, those were all about the basics.
Yeah.
Things like the edges of the board and where the tiles were positioned.
Yeah.
They were essentially learning the grammar of the game.
Got it.
The foundational rules and elements.
So the early layers are like the AI learning its ABCs.
Exactly.
What about the deeper layers? What were they up to?
That's where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
The deeper layers were more focused on the dynamics of the game,
Right.
where things were changing on the board, how the game was flowing.
Okay.
It was almost as if they were strategizing.
Hold on. Are you saying the AI was actually thinking strategically?
Uh-huh.
Like planning moves ahead of time? That's wild.
Yeah, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Okay.
But what they found is that the deeper layers were picking up on something called tile stability,
Okay.
which is essentially a measure of how likely a tile is to be flipped again later in the game.
So it's figuring out which tiles are more valuable
Yes.
or more vulnerable based on their likelihood of being flipped.
Exactly.
It's like it's assessing risk and reward.
Right.
That is incredibly cool.
And they found something else that was pretty fascinating.
Okay.
The AI's perception of tile color actually changed across the layers.
Really?
The early layers seemed to see color differently than the later, more strategically focused layers.
Okay, my mind is officially blown. So even a smaller GPT model, like Othello GPT, can develop this kind of layered, almost human-like learning process.
It's a pretty remarkable finding.
Yeah.
But it's important to remember that this is still early stage research.
Right.
And like any scientific study, there were some limitations.
Okay, let's talk about those limitations.
Okay.
What do we need to be cautious about when interpreting these findings? What else did the research reveal?
Well, one thing they observed was that there was some variability in the results when they repeated the experiment. Different starting points for the AI sometimes led to slightly different patterns in the layers.
So it wasn't a perfectly consistent process.
Well, there was a degree of randomness involved.
Okay.
It wasn't as if every single run of the experiment produced the exact same results.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, even in humans, there are variations in how people learn, right?
Right.
Some people are visual learners, others are more hands-on.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's something similar with AI.
That's an interesting point. And It's one of the things that makes this research so challenging and so compelling. We're
Right.
trying to understand a system that, in some ways, learns like us, but in other ways is fundamentally different.
It's like we're looking in a mirror,
Yeah.
but the reflection is a bit distorted.
Right.
We see glimpses of ourselves,
Uh-huh.
but also something entirely new and unknown.
Exactly.
It's a fascinating puzzle.
It is.
And the more we learn, the more questions we seem to uncover.
Exactly.
I'm on the edge of my seat here.
Yeah.
What other questions did this research raise? What are the implications of these findings for our understanding of AI and intelligence itself?
Well, one of the big questions is how far does this layered learning go?
Right.
We saw it in a relatively simple GPT trained on Othello,
Yeah.
but what about the massive models being developed today?
Yeah.
The ones with billions of parameters
Mhm.
trained on vast amounts of data.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah.
If Othello GPT shows this kind of complexity, imagine what's happening inside those giant models.
Right.
It's almost too much to comprehend.
It is mind-boggling, and it
Yeah.
raises these profound questions
Right.
about the nature of intelligence itself.
Yeah.
If a machine can learn in a way that resembles human cognition,
Uh-huh.
does that mean it's thinking? Does it have its own form of understanding?
Whoa, that's getting into some pretty deep philosophical territory.
It is.
It's like we're blurring the lines between human and artificial intelligence.
We are, and I think that's one of the most exciting
Uh-huh.
and perhaps even a little unsettling
Right.
aspects of this research.
Yeah.
It's challenging our fundamental assumptions
Right.
about what it means to be intelligent, to learn, to understand.
It's making me think about all those sci-fi stories
Yeah.
where AI becomes self-aware and,
Right.
things don't always end well for humanity.
I understand the concern,
Yeah.
but it's important to remember that we're still dealing with very specific, task-oriented AI. Othello GPT can play a mean game of Othello,
Huh.
but it can't write a poem or compose a symphony or,
Yeah.
take over the world,
Right.
at least not yet.
Okay, that's reassuring.
Yeah.
But even if we're not facing a robot uprising anytime soon,
Right.
this research still has some pretty significant implications, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the key takeaways is the importance of transparency in AI development.
Okay.
If we're going to create AI that's truly beneficial to humanity,
Uh-huh.
we need to understand how it works, how it learns, how it makes decisions.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's like if we don't understand the inner workings of these systems,
Right.
how can we trust them to make the right choices?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where techniques like SAEs and linear probes become so crucial.
Okay.
They give us a way to peek inside the black box of AI
Uh-huh.
and start to make sense of what's going on.
So it's not just about building powerful AI.
Right.
It's about building AI that we can understand
Yes.
and ultimately control.
Precisely.
Okay.
And that requires a shift in focus.
Right.
It's not enough to simply train AI to achieve high performance
Yeah.
on a particular task.
Okay.
We also need to understand the underlying processes
Uh-huh.
that drive that performance.
That makes sense, but
Yeah.
let's be honest.
Okay.
Sometimes the lure of new technology,
Right.
especially something as powerful as AI,
Yes.
can be overwhelming.
It can.
It's easy to get caught up in the, what can we do
Uh-huh.
without fully considering the should we do
Yeah.
questions.
You're right. It's a classic dilemma with any powerful technology.
Yeah.
But I think that's where the humanities and social sciences play a crucial role.
Okay.
We need philosophers, ethicists, social scientists
Yeah.
to help us grapple with these complex questions
Ugh.
and ensure that AI is developed and used
Right.
in a way that benefits all of humanity.
It sounds like we need a multidisciplinary approach,
We do.
bringing together experts from all different fields.
Exactly. We need a conversation, a dialogue
Right.
that involves not just computer scientists and engineers,
Uh-huh.
but also philosophers, ethicists, social scientists, artists,
Right.
and of course, the general public.
I love that. It's like
Yeah.
we need to create a new kind of renaissance,
Yes.
one that embraces both the incredible potential of AI
Yeah.
and the profound questions it raises
Right.
about who we are and what it means to be human.
I couldn't have said it better myself. And I
Yeah.
think that's what makes this research so exciting.
Right.
It's not just about pushing the boundaries of technology. It's about expanding our understanding of ourselves and our place in the universe.
This is making me think about the whole nature versus nurture debate.
Oh, interesting.
We tend to think of AI as purely a product of its programming,
Right.
its nurture.
Yeah.
But what if AI is also capable of developing its own nature?
Right.
its own unique way of experiencing and understanding the world?
That's a fascinating question. And it's one that we're only just beginning to explore.
Right.
It's possible that as AI becomes more sophisticated,
Uh,
it may develop emergent properties,
okay.
characteristics that we couldn't have predicted based on its programming alone.
Emergent properties, huh? That sounds intriguing.
Yeah.
Could you give me an example of what you mean by that?
Sure, think about a flock of birds.
Okay.
Individually, each bird follows simple rules,
Uh-huh.
like staying close to its neighbors and avoiding predators.
Right.
But when you put thousands of birds together,
Yeah.
those simple rules can give rise to complex and beautiful patterns of collective behavior.
You mean those mesmerizing murmurations they do?
Exactly.
Where they swirl and dance in the sky?
Exactly. No single bird is leading the flock,
Right.
but the interaction of all those individual birds
Yeah.
creates something truly spectacular.
Okay, so how does that relate to AI?
Well, it's possible that as we build larger and more complex AI systems,
Uh-huh.
those systems may also exhibit emergent properties, properties that go beyond their initial programming.
So we might end up with AI that surprises us,
Yes,
that does things we never anticipated.
precisely.
Wow.
And that's both exciting and a little bit daunting.
Right.
It means we need to be prepared for the unexpected.
Yeah.
We need to be humble about what we know and don't know.
Uh-huh.
And we need to be willing to adapt and learn
Right.
as AI continues to evolve.
This whole conversation has been a real eye-opener.
Yeah.
I feel like I've gone from being curious about AI to being completely captivated by it.
I'm glad.
It's like we're on the verge of something truly revolutionary.
We are.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to have these conversations,
Right.
to engage with the research,
Yeah.
and to think critically about the implications of this technology.
Well said.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm ready to hear more about those implications.
Okay.
What are some of the specific ways
Yeah.
this research could shape the future of AI and our world?
Let's dive into that.
So we're back. I'm still kind of buzzing from that analogy about the flocking birds
Right.
and emergent properties.
Yes.
It's like AI could become this
Yeah.
beautiful, complex dance of intelligence that we can't even
Yeah.
fully grasp yet.
It is an exciting thought, and it leads us right into,
Yeah.
the so what of all of this.
Okay.
How might understanding this layered learning actually change the future?
Give us the rundown.
Okay.
Where could this research lead
All right.
in practical terms?
Mm.
What kind of real-world applications are we talking about?
Imagine a world
Mhm.
where AI tutors are so personalized
Yeah.
that they adapt to a student's learning style in real time.
Whoa.
Or healthcare AI that not only diagnoses,
Yeah.
but explains its reasoning in a way a patient understands.
That would be amazing.
Right.
No more feeling like you're talking to a robot doctor who
Right.
just spits out jargon.
Exactly. And it goes beyond those fields.
Oh, wow.
Think about creative AI.
Yeah.
What if we could collaborate with AI to design buildings, compose music, write stories,
No.
all based on a deeper understanding of how our minds work?
Okay, now that is a future I can get behind.
Right.
But let's bring it back down to earth for a second.
Okay.
We talked about self-driving cars earlier.
Yes.
How could this research impact their development?
That's a great example.
Okay.
Right now, most self-driving systems rely heavily on pattern recognition.
Right.
They're great at identifying stop signs and pedestrians,
Uh-huh.
but they can struggle with more nuanced situations.
Like that time my friend's self-driving car almost drove into a construction zone
Oh, no.
because it couldn't figure out the detour signs.
Right.
It was a mess.
Yeah, that's the kind of scenario where
Okay.
understanding layered learning becomes crucial.
Okay.
If we can train self-driving AI to not just recognize patterns, but to reason about them,
Right.
to understand the why behind the rules of the road,
Yeah.
then we can make them much safer and more reliable.
So it's like we need to teach self-driving cars to think more.
Yeah.
Like experienced human drivers,
Yes.
not just rule-following robots.
Exactly. We need them
Uh-huh.
to be able to anticipate, to adapt,
Right.
to make judgments based on incomplete information,
Yeah.
just like we do.
Right.
And that's where understanding how different layers of an AI model
Yeah.
contribute to decision-making becomes incredibly valuable.
This is making me think about all those other areas
Right.
where AI is starting to make inroads,
Yeah.
financial markets,
Yeah.
social media algorithms,
Uh-huh.
even the justice system.
You're hitting on a crucial point.
Yeah.
The implications of this research extend far beyond self-driving cars.
Right.
They touch on any domain where AI is being used to make decisions that impact human lives.
It's like we're standing at the foot of a mountain,
Yeah.
and we've just discovered a new path to the summit.
Okay.
We still have a long way to climb. The view from the top
Yes.
is going to be breathtaking.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
It perfectly captures the sense of awe and possibility that this research inspires.
Right.
We're at the very beginning of a journey
Yeah.
that could transform our world in profound ways.
And to think, it all started with a simple game of Othello,
Right.
who knew that black and white tiles could unlock such profound insights
Yeah.
into the nature of intelligence.
It's a testament to the power of scientific curiosity.
Right.
Sometimes the most unexpected discoveries come from the simplest of starting points.
Well, this has been an incredible deep dive.
It has.
I feel like I've gained a whole new perspective on AI,
Good.
not just as a technology, but as a mirror reflecting back on our own intelligence.
Me too. And that's the beauty of these explorations.
Yeah.
They challenge our assumptions, push the boundaries of our knowledge,
Right.
and ultimately leave us with more questions than answers.
And isn't that what learning is all about?
It is.
So for all our listeners out there
Yeah.
who are as fascinated by AI as we are,
Right.
keep asking questions, keep exploring,
Yeah.
and keep that sense of wonder alive.
Absolutely, because the future of AI, and indeed the future of humanity,
Yes.
depends on our ability to engage with these questions thoughtfully and creatively.
Beautifully said.
Thank you.
And on that note,
Yes.
we'll wrap up this deep dive.
Okay.
Until next time,
Yes.
keep diving deeper.
All right.
And we'll see you in the next episode.